One station making history every day.
Chicago, Chicago.
Now, John Cass and Lauren Cohn.
89 WPLS. In constant sorrow all through his day, I am a man of constant sorrow.
Good morning, Lauren Cohn.
Good morning on this Monday morning. How are you?
This Monday, 25th of March, Greek Independence Day. My favorite holiday is July 4th, but this comes in pretty close second. I've got the blue and white on,
You
going to
look nice
Greek
today.
Islands with some friends later. And
It's also happy Passover to everybody out there.
happy Passover to everyone. Later we'll talk about that and why that's important as you see freedom being distinguished or extinguished around the world. But right now we've got another question about freedom in Illinois. And the question to you when we come back after the break is, why is this state so darn corrupt? Another evidence, more evidence of it on the front page of the Tribune today. An excellent story by David Kidwell. Red Flex City dealings raised red flags long ago. Daily officials were warned in 07 that red light camera firm got preferential treatment. This only, it's not just about some side winning. It's about you losing. If you're paying taxes in this state, in this city, these people are all layered up and they deal with each other. You come last.
And it's case after case after case, John. We see this so many times.
So when we come back after the break, the question to you at 591-8900 or text at 68683 WLSAM is, why is this state so darn corrupt? Right on the phone with us right now is the Tribune's investigative reporter, a great one, David Kidwell. David, are you there?
Hey, John.
Good morning.
Yeah. Morning.
So tell us about this story. It begins, top officials in Mayor Richard M. Daley's administration were warned 6 years ago about preferential treatment in Chicago's red light camera contract, a deal now embroiled in a federal corruption investigation of an alleged $2 million bribery scheme at City Hall that was under, I think, the guy I used to call Shortshanks, Mayor Shortshanks, Richard Daley. So, David, I know that you don't take opinions when you do your news. It's straight news, but tell us about this story. Why is this important to us?
Well, I think what's happening right now is they're following that money. Not all that money, I don't believe, was intended for John Bills. Only some of it.
And John Bills was a top Department of Transportation official who was also Mike Madigan's top precinct captain, and he was basically pushing this contract through, correct?
$100 million contract.
Yeah, he was the person at the city most responsible for bringing them in 2003, and to begin with, oversaw their program, Red Flex's program here, while it was mushrooming from a $1.9 million pilot project into what it is today, which is 384 cameras across the city, and a $100 million contract for that company. What's also important to remember, though, is that the story arc here began with me sitting in Mayor Rahm Emanuel's office last February and him suggesting to me that it wasn't really any of the taxpayers' business, where he came up with the idea to expand that program into the speed camera program. We had asked for a number of records, and he had said no.
This is Mayor Transparency and Mayor Ethics, right?
Yeah, this is our current mayor. This company that is now coming out was involved in all this shenanigans back in last century or in 2003.
Right.
And when they first got here, is now was first on track to win this new speed camera deal under the current mayor. So we're really interested in how that came about too, even though they've now been banned from doing that business.
And some of the things in your report that people don't know about because they may have not read the story or knew the backstory on it, that Redflex reportedly gave this official, the city transportation official, John Bill, 17 vacation trips, hotel airfares, and golf trips is what you reported, perhaps in exchange for this contract, and there was no bidding at the time.
Right. There was a bid back in 2007 after that's what the story was today.
Right.
There was a bid in 2003 that John Bill sat on the selection committee, and then there was another bid in 2007 when they expanded largely, but they didn't want to in 2007 until Ed Burke raised a stink about it.
So is Ed Burke? Ed Burke figures prominently in your page one story in the Chicago Tribune today, David. Was he on the side of reform?
You know what? I don't know. I can't tell you what.
Or was he on the side of American Traffic Solutions, who was upset about it?
That's the question, and you know, in large part, you know, that may be irrelevant. The fact is, they knew, or they should have known. People were telling them back in 2007, whatever their motives were for telling them. You know, people always have motives, really, whether it's good government or whether they had a buddy who wasn't getting the deal. The fact is, Mayor Daley's administration was told repeatedly that there was problems, and not a heck of a lot was done to look into it.
One of the names you brought in the story today is Mara Georges, the former corporation counsel for Daley. I guess now she works for the same company that Daley works for, the company that did the parking meter deal. So tell us about her involvement. What did she do here?
You know what? All I know is she's the one who got the first letter. Ed Burke wrote a 7-page screed on the Redflex deal addressed to her and to the chief procurement officer under Daley about, you know, why aren't you bidding this? This thing stinks. You know, I'm hearing all this stuff. This contract has grown from $1.9 million to somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million without a bid on anything, and it's against the law.
David,
it illegal.
David, I know you said it was illegal, and you have been on this from the beginning. I know you will be on it some more. So thanks for your time here this morning. Thanks, Dave. The question to listeners, 591-8900. This is money coming out of your pocket. You're being squeezed. 591-8900. Why is Illinois so corrupt? And will Lisa Madigan save us from corruption by investigating? Calls after this. Traffic and weather first on the fives with Ryan Burr. Lauren Cohn, John Cass here, 89 WLS. One of the reasons why Lauren and I hope that you tune in, is because we're both reporters. We're not on-air personalities, really. And you come here to find the story behind the story. I've spent, 30 years covering politics in this corrupt town. The sound bites are nice, but the backstory, the story behind the story, and the story on the front page of the Tribune.
People need to know the information, and they need to talk about it.
And what about the larger issue, Lauren?
Why is the state so corrupt? Why is there so much corruption? Why are we rooted in this history here?
Never ends. Mark in Naperville, tell me.
Hey guys, good morning. I don't have an answer as to why the city's so corrupt, but my question is, if you're on trial and the evidence stacked against you is found to be through ill-gotten means, the case is thrown out. So if you're pinched by one of these cameras, couldn't there not be a case that this was there was ill-gotten means to get these cameras and the case be thrown out?
Because that's what it's about. Ultimately, the cameras are about squeezing revenue out of your pocket in the name of safety, correct?
Right, but if they weren't supposed to be there, or they were, maybe illegally gotten and installed, then isn't there a case to be made?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a reporter. But I'll tell you this: the point is, the case to be made is to you and everyone who's listening, that this city and this state
needs to be held accountable.
We are drowning in it. Thanks, Mark. Let's go to another call. How about Bob in Streamwood? Bob.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Hi,
Fine,
Bob.
thanks.
You look at the attorney generals for the last 20 to 25 years. State of Illinois, Roland Burrs, 91 to 95. Compliant Jim Ryan from the Chumbalone Party, 95 to 03. And then, Her Majesty Lisa from 2003 to now. If our own Attorney General won't go after crime and corruption and indict and do these people, we can't rely on the federal government to do it all the time either, because in the last 6 years they've kind of been connected too.
Hey, one thing I'll tell you, Bob, and I don't know, Lauren. By the way, that's an excellent call, Bob. Thank you from Streamwood. Mm-hmm. The Jeff Bills, the guy at the center of this,
right,
is a South Side precinct captain. He, allegedly or reportedly dealt with money and got favors and everything. He's a top precinct captain for Michael Madigan, the boss of Madiganistan.
Daddy of Lisa Madigan, so there you go.
She's the Attorney General, and they're priming her for governor. Do you think she'd ever investigate this? I don't think so. Gary in Naperville. Gary?
Hey, thanks. Good morning. Thanks for all you do. Really appreciate it. And it's great listening to you, too. I love history, and if you look at the history of Illinois and Chicago, you understand that it's always been this way, because Chicago was the first Wild West town, I think, or maybe the second one after New Orleans. So the corrupt forces got in power before they had government here, and then guess what? When they established the first government, guess who called the shots? The guys that were running the bootlegging and the brothels.
How you doing? How you doing?
But right, exactly. And then the second thing with the immigrants, like my grandparents were all immigrants. They came from worse places in America, and they were told, here's your $5. If you vote the right way, everything's going to work fine here in America. And so they went along with it and said, hey, this is a better place than back in the old country where it was real oppressive.
We kind of brought, what do you think, Lauren and Gary, we kind of brought
it upon ourselves?
We brought the corruption from the old country here. Thanks, Gary. How about Sam on the tollway? Sam?
Hey, John, how are you?
You got about 30 seconds, Sam.
I think it lays at the feet of the Cook County State's Attorney. I think if you had an independent Cook County State's Attorney who investigated this corruption as much as vigorously as prosecuting small bags of marijuana or cannabis, some of this stuff would end, because it would be state penitentiary time. And but John, that doesn't mean that I don't like red light cameras. I think they're a good idea. Why should somebody blow a red light and think that they can get away with it? Now it's actually changed my conduct. When I come to one of those cameras, I slow down. I don't try to go through.
Thanks, Sam, for following the law. But I don't like government using means to squeeze me. John Cass, Lauren Cohn, 89 WS. We're taking your calls on corruption back after this.
89 WLS.
Tuesday morning with Bruce Wolf and Dan Proft on 89 WLS. The Supreme Court takes on affirmative action.
And Ari Emanuel's upset about his interview with Brian Williams. He thought it was going to be a softball. Of course he did.
Tuesday morning with Bruce Wolf and Dan Proft, 89 WLS.
We're in this state, Madaganistan, corrupt, broke, and people are leaving. We want to know what you think about it. Let's see. We got a call from Judy. Judy.
Yes. Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, John.
Hi, Judy.
I've been reading your column, John, for years. I believe you reporters can report until the sun comes up and nothing's going to change. They're always going to vote for the same old people time and time again. It doesn't matter. The people in the state, they just don't care about this stuff. And the ones that do, they're all embedded with the politicians and the union guys.
Not all of them, because you're on the phone.
You care, Judy.
It doesn't matter, John. It doesn't
people read
matter.
my column in the Tribune, and people read David Kidwell's story on the front page.
You know what I'll say about that, Judy? I came from a city that I just used to work in, Philly, and nothing got done in Philly because people didn't care. And to me, that's no excuse. I moved back to Chicago because I love the city and I care. And I agree with you. I don't like the politics here and what's going on, but I love Chicago, and I'll keep talking about it.
Well, I'll
thanks,
keep talking
Judy.
about it too.
Judy, I want you to talk about it, and thanks for your call, and I want you to keep listening, because we've decided to, all you callers, hold on. Here's the question. We're going to go let you have more of your say. Why is this state so corrupt? Why the heck do we take it? 591-8900. John Cass, Lauren Cohn. Back after this news with Ryan Burrow. It is 9:30.
89 WLS. When you want Chicago's classic hits, turn to 94.7 WLS. For traffic and weather info, tune in to 890 AM WLS for traffic and weather first on the fives when you need it most.
We're back, Chumbalone Nation.
You know what I'm reading right now, John? I'm reading this NBC's Ward Room's list of the most corrupt wards.
Right.
And just about all of them. And they've got a list here of all the corrupt.
Read a few.
Well, in the first, we have Alderman Fred Rohde, bribery. Alderman Fred Hubbard, embezzlement. Alderman Tyrone Kenner, bribery.
That's
Alderman
third.
William Beavers, tax evasion in the seventh.
Is what's fifth? Larry Bloom?
Alderman Larry Bloom, bribery and
Very
tax
good.
evasion.
And 11th? Where does 11th wards show up?
Alderman Patrick
Hules. Pat
resigned
Hules.
after receiving a loan from a company that did city business.
But that's just one alderman? You know what? There's a funny thing about corruption in Illinois where we got all your calls and we want more, and they're coming in, so we're going to get to them. 591-8900. Funny thing, Lauren, with all the corruption in this state and in this city and all the indictments and everything, we've had 4 governors go away. We've had state senators. We had state legislators. We have aldermen, right? Everybody.
Right.
Dog catchers. You know, one place that never got indicted? 5th floor of City Hall, the mayor's office. Do you know why? Isn't it kind of odd? 0 indictments in like the last, 50 years when the dailies ran it?
Right, and now we've got stuck with this whole parking meter debacle.
But why no indictments? You know what I think it is? There's some magic fairy dust of pure good government sprinkling over the 5th floor of City Hall. I think it falls from whoever the mayor is. It falls from their shoulders like what's that stuff? It gets on your shoulders and you need the shampoo to take care of it. What is it?
Head and Shoulders?
Yeah, Head and Shoulders.
The dandruff stuff?
Yeah, something like that. Good dandruff, though. Good dandruff. Maddie in Orland Park. Maddie, you're on.
Good morning.
Hi.
I think that besides the low information voters, you've got those that supposedly are educated that are like the bobbleheads drinking the Kool-Aid. Oh, we must vote for Democrats. And even in Madigan's area and some of these other neighborhoods, people that know better are terrified to not put that sign out there because they're afraid of losing a job. I know people that are terrified to vote their conscience because they think somehow when they walk into that polling place the day of the election that the ruling party will find out how they voted.
And then take away and then transfer your son who works for the city across the city, right?
And then how about the Board of Elections? Who runs that? That should be, just like you have judges on both sides of the fence on day of election.
Right.
Somebody from both sides of the party need to be running the show down there.
Well,
the worst thing, I think, is the absentee ballots. I know people that have said for years, they keep sending in the cards, no, these people don't live here. And then when they run for local office, they find out on the voter vault sheets, these people have been voting absentee ballot for years.
Thanks, Maddie. You got it right. She's got it right. 591-8900. Let me tell you, too, when you come to this station to talk to Lauren Cohn and John Cass, we don't just, I'm not a pretty voice. Let's admit it, okay? The voice is a little...
I like your voice.
How you doing?
I like your voice, John, and mine just cracked.
But one thing we do know, politics is not just the soundbite of say Lisa Madigan standing there with the angel's wings on her shoulders. That politics is about the story behind the story and who's connected to who. Chumbalones, wake up. In Norwich, for example, suburban Norwich is going to be there are all these suburban elections, right? And they fly under the radar. Well, a guy running for mayor in Norwich is Tony Beningo from the Secretary of State. He's got a political job. His family's got political jobs. He's backed by DeLeo, Jimmy DeLeo, how you doing, and Mike Madigan. See how things happen? Even in the small elections, they take care of business because they don't want to lose. Will in Skokie.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
I think corruption in Chicago. Well, Illinois is corrupt because Chicago's corrupt, and Chicago's corrupt because we're brought up with it, like from our mother's milk, from the time we're young. And the point is that everybody realizes when you're young that there's the way things are done, period. I'm a state licensed home inspector, and I inspect houses for people who are buying houses and commercial properties and things like this. And I don't know how many times I've had, where I've found a non-compliant porch or a deck or bad electrical wiring. And the client says, well, what should I do about it? I says, well, you hire a professional, electrician or whatever, and they fix it. And he goes, no, really, what do we do about it? And so they're going against their own interest by buying into the corruption, because a lot of people think, hey, there's a corruption, it's a known quantity, and I'd rather have the known quantity than the unknown. And it's a thing of, one of these days I'm probably going to have to rely on the corruption for something, so I might as well go along with the system.
And that's why it's so evil, because
exactly
it's like think of this. It's like the gang leader. Okay, there's a gang leader on the corner. He's got a lot of juice, and you don't want to be in a gang, and your friend doesn't want to be in a gang. But guess what? They start sucking up to him,
right,
and they laugh
course.
at his jokes. And they think he's smart, and they say how great you are, how great he is, because they're afraid of him. And in that act of laughing because you're afraid and sucking up, I've seen it happen in this state for 30 years, okay, because they're afraid of these bosses. Fran and Aurora, you're on.
John, you have a great voice, and thank you so much for your voice, and that you speak out. But as Edmund Burke says, evil flourishes when good men fail to act. And people are afraid. They're uneducated about how to change the system. It's not going to change until people put their fear aside and step forward and start making phone calls to their elected officials.
Fran, we've got to get Chumbalo Nation to stand up. We just have to have Chumbalo Nation say, look, they treat us like Chumbalones? Okay, but we're not stupid. Now, here's a text from 847. We asked the question, 68683, text to WLSAM. Here's the text. Simple answer. One-party Democrat rule. Dems have controlled Chicago forever, and the state has been controlled by Madigan for 33 years. The Amish texter. Hey, Amish texter, not bad. Not bad at all.
Hey,
Lauren?
let's take Jim from Lombard on line 8.
Okay, we got a second. Jim?
Yes.
You got 10 seconds, Jim. Quick.
Okay, quick. Going back in history, 1950s, you had to have, in the city of Chicago, a vehicle inspection. So the thing to do when the inspector got in the car, you'd leave a $5 bill on the seat so that you would get your car cleared and good to go.
Thanks, Jim. But you know what? I think that it's got to go up now, right? That was a 50. It's got to be a 50
maybe,
now, huh?
Yeah.
Or for maybe commercial driver's licenses cost a lot more money.
Just leave the money
now.
on the seat.
John Cass, Lauren Cohn. We're back after this.
89 WLS. Get the latest news, listen live, and see what we're talking about at WLSAM.com. Plus, check out the latest video and photo galleries, weather channel forecasts, and on-demand traffic. All at WLSAM.com.
John Cass, Lauren Cohn, we asked you to hold on talking about corruption. When you want to talk about politics in this state, you might want to turn in here because Lauren and I were reporters first, and we know that there's always a story behind a story. Tom in Schaumburg, you're on. Tom.
Good morning, John and Laura.
Hey, Lauren.
Funny thing about unions, isn't it? In the private sector, if a union looks shaky, doesn't go bankrupt and out of business. Now the International comes in, takes all the union elected leaders, throws them in the street, puts their own people in there to save the union. Too bad that don't happen in the public sector, because these kinky deals where blue-collar workers are getting $100,000 a year in salary and multi-million-dollar pensions are bankrupting this state, and there's nothing we can do about it because the feds sit by and say, hey, you guys voted for it, nothing you can do about it. There's the problem. Good people are leaving the state because they're scared. They're scared their money is being stolen from them every time they walk out the door.
Well, thanks, Tom, but you know that Mike Madigan just told us that, forget what the SEC said, no one was defrauded on the bonds, okay? You know that, right? No one was defrauded. Jim, do you got a question for Lauren?
Yes, sir. Well, Illinois sick. It's got this political disease called Democratitis, and you're seeing it in full bloom. That being said, it is a shame that nothing's being done, but you see, I'll go back to how Mayor Daley destroyed MIGS. It'll be 10 years ago this month. And then also just things like the legislature, when they tripled the truck licensing fees about 8-9 years ago, 17,000 trucks left the state of Illinois, so all the business goes away with it. And this is a slow dribble and drabble of businesses and people leaving.
But I would say that Republicans have to offer an alternative, and they haven't. They're just willing to, right, Lauren? What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. I mean,
where are they, right?
Where are they? And, you talk about businesses leaving, and we totally understand why. But if we don't talk about this and we don't stand up, that's going to continue to happen, and that's not good for anyone who lives here.
Tom in South Holland. Tommy.
Good morning, John. How you doing? Morning, Lauren. You know what? 2 points. I'm going to make the first point first because it's more important. Guy Fieri on Diners and Drives has every thing he talks about is comfort food. John, you have a comfort voice. I could listen to you read the ingredients of a jar of peanut butter. I'm serious.
Really?
Doesn't he, though?
You do. You have a very, very, very nice voice. I like it.
All right. Okay.
Number 2. Every journey begins with one step, and the first step, I think, in resolving the political corruption we have in Chicago or in any state is term limits.
Yeah, and I think Mike Madigan owes us about 33 years of them.
There you go.
Thanks, buddy. And thanks a lot, Tom. Lauren, it's not just one party, right? We've established this. You've said this many times that Republicans have to offer an alternative. But look at how this state is going to roll over for Lisa Madigan for governor. She's not investigating this Redflex deal. Her daddy's top precinct captain is part of it. It's on the front page of the Tribune. What the heck, Lauren?
That's why we're talking about it, John.
Traffic and weather first on the 5s with Ryan Burrow.
89
WLS. Join us today at 5 for the WLS Sports pregame show.
Oh, my brackets are a mess. How many teams do you have in the Sweet 16, Rich?
I don't want to talk about it, but we'll talk about it a lot on 89 WLS. Not that.
My brackets didn't do too well either, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's because
I got some people mad at me over that, too, so.
I don't bet on things. I just don't gamble. The next segment, today's an important day for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about drinking. It's not about kissing a stone. And all those are good. But today's about freedom. We're going to have a guest on who's going to tell us about the history of freedom in this country and outside this country. On March 25th, 1821, I want you to think of if the Pope was dragged out of his church on Easter Sunday and nailed and hung upside down to die on the doorway of St. Peter's Basilica. Think of how you'd feel. Because that happened in 1821 to the Patriarch of Constantinople. Greeks threw off oppression, 400 years worth. And we'll be talking about that. 591-8900. Dr. Connie Mertopoulos, Director of the Hellenic Museum, National Hellenic Museum in Chicago, and your calls on Greek Independence Day. John Cass, Lauren Cohn. Traffic and weather.